Hey guys, welcome back to Surviving Chronically. I am Patricia, and this is Kristen Williams, the founder of Hempsley. I had told you guys in my vlog last week that I was going to be doing a series of interviewing women in the cannabis industry that I feel like are making huge strides and making a difference in the cannabis industry. The stigma, the unawareness, the lack of education, I feel like the women that I have lined up to do these interviews have really made a huge difference in the impact of the stigma that surrounds cannabis. And I decided to call this Cannabis Super Women because I believe that you all are super women. And first up, I have, like I said, Kristen Williams with me. She's the CEO of Hempsley. And I wanted to interview Kristen first. It was important to me to interview you first, Kristen, because I felt like you and I are a lot alike when it comes to what we want to see happen in the cannabis industry or just surrounding cannabis all the way around in the United States and even globally. We want to see it be seen differently. So I'm very grateful that you were willing to do this interview with me. And I'm going to start off with asking you the questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
When did you know you wanted to be a part of the cannabis industry?
Well, so I grew up totally against all drugs and alcohol. I mean, I was kind of that kid who was running around telling people not to curse and not to do bad things. And it wasn't until my sophomore year of college when someone really close to me convinced me that I needed to try it. I had actually gone home to lecture him about his cannabis use. He was getting in trouble at school, and he was still in high school. And I realized that he was right. I needed to do my own research and try this for myself before I continued judging other people. And when I did, I realized for the first time that I had anxiety. I didn't realize that was even like a thing. That was just my natural state of being. I was more present in the moment. And, I realized it wasn't this horrible thing that I had been taught to believe that it was. And so it became, at first it was really a struggle for me because I was identified as a good kid and good kids don't do drugs. And it was really hard for me to kind of justify using cannabis, but it became an integral part of my self-care routine. I mean, when I was using cannabis, I was eating better, I was sleeping better, I was exercising more, and it was vital just to my functionality and my productivity as a student. And so that was when I was a sophomore in college. So I was about 20 years old. And then it was about a year later when I heard the story of Charlotte Figge, who was the little girl who was having about 300 grand mal seizures a week. And her parents were giving her CBD. And I got to begin reading this article, and I was just totally distraught over the public's backlash against her parents for giving her a drug. I was that total nerd. I had done the research. I understood how and why this little girl wasn't getting high. But coming from the background I do, I also understood the public's concern. I had grown up believing that very thing, and I just couldn't wrap my head around anyone trying to take this medicine away from this little girl or sending her parents to prison for trying to help her. And it upset me so much that I wanted to help. And I was studying graphic design at the time, so I decided that the way I could help was by entering the industry as a graphic designer and helping give these companies that were coming onto the scene a professional and credible reputation and face to put on so that people would be able to take them seriously and to help change those stigmas. I mean, at the time, it was all tie-dyes and pot leaves everywhere, which I personally don't mind, but I see, coming from the background I do, how that can have a negative impact on how people are viewing this plant. So that's kind of where I decided, oh my gosh, this is what I need to do. And cannabis industry, it was so intimidating because I was a new user and all these things, but I mean, it just wasn't even an option. I mean, that's what I was going to do.
Yeah, I get it. I get how the even though I am a tie-dye type of person, it gives the stigma that everybody, the pothead stigma that sort of surrounds cannabis, that everybody's a pothead and you're lazy and that type of thing. And I feel like it's important with the work that you're doing to start separating, like, there is nothing wrong with being a pothead or a, like Snoop Dogg, Willie Nelson, like anything like that. But it's also, if we're trying to get people to understand that cannabis can be a viable medication for a lot of people and can be enjoyed no differently than alcohol, then we are going to have to separate the image that is there now.
Right.
So you kind of just explained this, but I'll let you explain a little further. What made you have a passion for cannabis?
It was really just trying to help people, and having come from, I live in Missouri, so I'm in the Midwest, and I grew up just very, I guess, sheltered, yes, but also just unaware of all of these natural wellness tools around me. I mean, I wasn't aware of, meditation or massage or the benefits of, yoga. Those weren't things that I was exposed to living in Missouri. And cannabis integrated so well with these things and made me actually, again, enjoy exercising, enjoy cooking healthy meals for myself, allowed my brain to calm down at the end of the night and go to sleep and have a restful sleep. And just how life-changing it was for me. And then hearing all these stories, I mean, when I started designing, I started hearing more and more people come out and say, how this had changed their lives in much more drastic ways than mine. I mean, overall, I'm a relatively healthy person, but for people like you, who it's just drastically transformed their lives, that motivated me so much to help people understand. And just, even if people don't want to use the plant themselves, help people understand how it can benefit others so that they're not judgmental towards those people. Because I even faced that as I started using cannabis. I mean, I had a huge fear of judgment and being ridiculed and not being taken seriously and all of those things. So helping people not undergo those same experiences is really a big driving force for me.
Yeah, and you really don't realize, like, you think that because it's legalizing everywhere that people are starting to be more aware of it, but there is, especially in like small towns like I'm from, people think what they think and they don't care. It is very hard to get anybody to listen to you when they're set in your ways and you're from a small town, and they're like, oh, my cousin's brother, sister, they got all these stories of bad stuff that supposedly happened, and it's hard to break the stigma and get people to listen to you. And I feel like that's one thing that you have done very, very well at Hempsley. And that sort of leads to my next question. Do you educate people or get involved in legalization with Hempsley?
So yes, but I try to stay non-political with Hempsley. Now, Kristen Williams will go political, but with Hempsley, one of the things I noticed when I got out and tried to start educating people was that people don't like to be preached to. They don't like to be, have their political views attacked. And so keeping it as non-political as possible was something that I really strive for with Hempsley. And, whenever I was just a designer, I started about 6 years ago as a designer in the industry. And when I wanted to help change the laws in Missouri, I was told that the two things I could do to help were helping fundraise or gathering petition signatures. And I put my heart and soul into those things for about 3 to 6 months. And I was terrible at both of them. I mean, I'm not good at asking for money. I'm not good at standing on the street. And, again, when you're gathering petition signatures, you're just, oh, are you in support of medical marijuana? And people would scream at me, no, and just get so angry. And as an empath, I mean, that just wore on me. And I didn't have an opportunity to actually engage them in conversation. It was a yes or no, and then it was over. And so I decided that the way I could help was by educating. And I decided that if and when it came to a vote in Missouri, the way I could help was by making sure that people understood the positives and, that it could bring, and so that they would vote in the correct way or vote to help legalize.
Right. There's so much miseducation out there, so much. And I myself was one of those people, you probably were in the beginning. I was like, if you would have handed me some weed, that's what I would have called it back then, and been like, here, smoke this. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, the cops might be around.
Exactly.
So, and I think you just answered, when you began, cannabis wasn't legal in Missouri yet. So you was out there fighting for the legalization, and yep. Patricia doesn't do that because they might hurt a girl in a little small town. Yep. I mean, I'm very open. Like, everybody that I've I come in contact with, I'm very open about it, but I don't, because my kids go to school around here and because it's a small town, I try to be very about education and very about it's for medication, even though I believe that it should be for whenever you want to use it. I try to focus on the medication part of it just because I have the real life experience with that.
Right. Well, and
so go ahead.
It was
Sorry.
such a big thing for, no, you're fine. Well, it was such a big thing for me in that realm because I mean, I am also that good kid. I don't like getting in trouble. So like what you're saying, I mean, if you look at my Instagram, whenever I first started out, I didn't post any pictures of actual cannabis. You know, I was very careful that no one out there, like, yes, I talked about using cannabis, but I only explicitly showed it when I was in a legal state, or talked about, you know, I only posted photos from when I was in a legal state doing work for a company, you know, somewhere that it is allowed. And that was something I was very, very cautious of, and I'm still a little bit apprehensive about. I mean, I think people know that I use cannabis, THC, but I think also, you know, whenever I go to an event and I'm presenting about CBD and my story, not everyone connects that maybe I use THC too. And
right.
That's been a sticking point for me because it feels inauthentic in some ways, but at the same time, I also use CBD and it is also amazing. So I'm really excited for Missouri to become medical so that I can start integrating that into my conversation a little bit more, but it is definitely something that's hard to navigate.
Definitely. And I get the feeling of feeling like, oh, I'm not really explaining the whole broad spectrum here, but I feel like until we keep working and chipping away at the stigma, we're going to have to be careful how we present ourselves, or we're going to get shut down before we even get to get the word out there.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. You just said this, and how long have you been consuming? You said like 6 years, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's been about 5 years for me.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay.
What is your preferred method of consumption?
So I love concentrates, so dabbing. And there's a lot of controversy around dabbing, and I support all of that controversy because there are a lot of bad dabs out there. But I have asthma, and for me, you know, inhalation is the quickest route of consumption for immediate relief. And whenever you have something like anxiety or migraines, like, you want the fastest possible effects that you can get. And so dabbing is my preferred method, but I am so picky about my dabs. You know, I look for stuff that is clean. You know, rosin is the best, something that hasn't been introduced to solvents at all is really important to me. You know, just making sure that it's a clean product. Is it clean flower that it was produced from? Is, you know, because there's a lot of not clean flower out there. So, you know, I'm very picky with that. And I also am very choosy in the THC and CBD ratios. You know, I don't think that, you know, when someone offers me a 99.9% THC dab, no, thank you. Like, that's not what I'm going for.
Right. I'm not trying to be completely done for here.
Exactly. And it's like, you can overstimulate your receptors and it can be detrimental. And I think that's something that lots of education still needs to happen in the legal sphere as well. But that is my preferred method, but I do it. And I also like do the tiniest dabs. I mean, other people who dab, you know, I go out to legal states and everything, and they're doing these dabs that are probably 6 times the size of my own dabs. And again, I have asthma, so I'm doing very teeny little dabs, so that I don't have to smoke a bowl to get the same effects. So
exactly, and it's less smoke inhalation because you're doing it one time and getting the same effect as opposed to having to continue hitting the bowl to get the effect that you're looking for. Exactly. And any of you who are watching this video, if you would like to know anything about what we're talking about as far as a bowl, the dabs, the wax, anything that we're talking about, I'm going to link the website to Hempsley in the info so you guys can go and get educated. You have a lot of education on there, and I want the people to take advantage of that. There's also, while we're taking a break and I'm telling about Hempsley, there's also a CBD quiz on there that helps you guide you to the right CBD products that Hempsley offers that might be best for your needs. And I think you guys should go over there and check it out. Like I said, the link will be in the info of this video. Let's see, where were we? Here's a good one. This is probably one of my favorite questions. Which cannabis myth bothers you the most?
Oh, well, you kind of said it earlier, but the myth that all people who use cannabis are lazy. I mean, I have never been more high functioning and productive on the right strain. I will plug, if I'm on the wrong strain, I can be lazy and I can go down and be out for the rest of the day. But as long as I have, found something that works for me, I mean, that is my medicine. I become more efficient, more productive, more happy, more enjoyable to be around. And I'm not lazy. I'm the farthest thing from lazy. So that really bothers me when people assume, oh, you must be lazy, or you must, not be contributing to society. That really bothers me.
Exactly. I get that there are people out there that are the stereotype, right, and they do fit it, and however, but it's all, to me, I equate it to, if a person is an alcoholic, they're alcoholic, but you don't go to the person at the bar on the weekend having a couple drinks going, you're an alcoholic, just because they can, they don't have the behaviors of the alcoholic just because they're consuming alcohol. And I would love for that to be the same type of thought about cannabis. Just because we're consuming cannabis doesn't mean I'm going to be sitting on the couch playing Xbox all day. So, I mean, I don't even know how to play Xbox.
I love that analogy with the alcohol. I mean, that's perfect. Spot on.
Right? Yeah. Even though my son would love if I would play Xbox, I try. He just beats me every time. So, when you are consuming, do you prefer indica, a sativa, or a hybrid?
I don't really look for those different names anymore. I really search out terpenes. So the industry is moving in this direction. Leafly actually redid its entire website recently to help support this new movement. But essentially, in the past, historically, sativa, indica, and hybrid had, okay, let me back up. So the things that actually kind of dictate the effects that a certain strain will have are terpenes. For anyone who may not know, terpenes are the compounds that give plants their smell and flavor. And in cannabis, they actually drive the highs. So, CBD and THC will determine the level of intoxication you feel, but terpenes will determine whether or not you feel more uplifted and happy, or more sedated and lethargic or relaxed. And so essentially, terpenes historically, typically sativa plants had really energizing terpenes, whereas indica plants had more relaxing and sedating terpenes. But now there's so much crossbreeding happening that that's not really the case anymore. And sativa and indica really to the anatomy of the plant, just the structure, physical structure, not necessarily, the terpenes. And so I have, I'm still working on it, but I'm always training myself to follow my nose. So instead of saying, is this sativa or indica, I'll ask, what terpenes does it have in it? And if they don't know, because still a lot of dispensaries are behind and don't have that information, I'll smell it. And a good rule of thumb is follow your nose. Your nose knows what terpene it needs. And if it smells good to you, you'll likely have a good experience with it. If it doesn't, then steer clear of it. And, I've trained, so like limonene is a terpene that is energizing, and it smells like lemons, citrus, and kind of floral and fruity. So if I smell a strain that has those aromas to it, I know, okay, that's going to be the more energizing strain. And if I smell something that's a little bit more earthy, it might have myrcene in it, and then that's more relaxing. So, Hempsley has a chart with 4 of the most common terpenes and helps you start identifying them. And, it helps me to identify, okay, I smell lemons. What does that smell like? Okay, now, and you can, if you really start to pay attention, you smell a lemon, you go over and smell cannabis, it's like, oh my gosh, I do smell those notes in there. And so training myself in that way has become much more effective for finding the medicine that I want to use in specific ways as a tool.
Yes, definitely. And I have been learning more about terpenes myself. Like I came into learning about cannabis when it was the hybrid indica sativa. And I guess my mindset is somewhat still there, because I was still learning about that when I was like, wait a minute, there's terpenes. And then when I started getting the information from Hempsley, if I can talk, then I started learning more and more and more. And I'm one of those people that once I start learning something, I'll be on Google, like trying to learn everything I can about it. And that's how it was about the endocannabinoid system in the beginning. And I'm starting to learn more about how everything affects your body, and how you have to start learning those things to know what's going to work for you medicinally when it comes time. And with that being said, do you think that cannabis will be legal federally in the US in 2020, or do you think that they're going to be like, oh, we'll do it as a medical thing and then just drag it out until they can finally are like, fine, y'all can have your legal weed?
Oh, I don't know. I think that the election this year is gonna like derail a lot of conversation around the things that are important to, in the industry at least, for the cannabis industry. I mean, there's lots of important, but I mean, like, I don't think that the cannabis industry will be the focus unless, my one caveat to that is unless Trump decides that he wants to, make a name for himself by legalizing cannabis. I think that that's a very good possibility, but I also think that, it's just going to depend on how the November election goes. I think if he gets reelected, then we might not see that for another 4 years. So yeah, I mean, I do think that we still have some time. And one of my big fears is it just getting rescheduled and then the essentially pharmaceutical industry taking over it. So I want it to happen in the right way. As much as I want it to be legalized, I think that the more states have programs set up, the less easy it's going to be for the federal government to come in and wipe that out. They're gonna have to pay attention to that, because there's so many people that have so much invested in it by that point that they can't just erase it and hand it all over to the pharmaceuticals. So while it's really frustrating the way that it's moving right now, I think that it's all in due time and it's going how it needs to go right now for the longevity of the industry.
Yeah. And little note here, guys, me and Kristen are both telling you guys the election is important. So that means do your research and do your voting. November 2020. Vote. What does a normal day look like for you?
Oh, well, my days vary quite a bit because there is so much fluctuation, but I have really gotten into a routine recently of getting up in the mornings. I get up early and spend about 2 hours doing like a morning routine for myself, and that's really helped. And so I start working by about 8 or 9 every morning, and I typically go to the office just to start the day to kind of like, it's kind of that jump start for me. And I've been trying not to check my email right away. I've noticed that email can really throw me into kind of like do or die mode, and I'm not being as creative. You can't be creative whenever you're kind of in that survival mode. And so I have started trying to spend 1 to 2 hours with like the creative tasks that I need to be doing and kind of get into a flow, and then check my email around noon, do that for a little bit, and then turn it off again and go into another creative project. So, I mean, because I work with so many different people and so many different things on Hempsley, that process can look very different from day to day.
Sorry,
sometimes
I wasn't trying to ignore you. My phone is like telling me to plug up, even though it was at 100% when we started. Sorry about that. I was listening. And I was going to say that was one thing that I started incorporating this year too, was taking the time in the morning to like motivational journal and just sort of give myself time to know what I want to do for the day. I feel like when I get up and I just start doing stuff, I don't have no mindset there.
Right. It makes a huge difference.
Sorry about that.
Oh, good.
Let's see. Do you face any scrutiny for being a woman in the cannabis industry?
I think that women face scrutiny in any industry, honestly. But I think that I've positioned myself in a way that being a woman actually gives me more credibility or makes me more trustworthy. Hempsley is really about this warm education. We're supporting you. And I think I've positioned Hempsley in a way that really embodies that part of myself. And I think that it would only make sense for a woman to be in charge of it. And so I think that I've, played it to my strengths in that way. But I mean, there are definitely times whenever I'm not taken seriously in a room. I mean, there's been cannabis conferences I've gone to. There was this one horrible experience. I walked up to a booth and there were about 4 men there alongside of me. And it was for like a locking container that you could put your cannabis in to keep away from kids and, contain the smell and all these things. And he got done doing his pitch and he handed everyone a business card except for me. And I said, everybody walked away and I said, hey, I'm very interested in this product. And he straight up ignored me and like just like walked away and sat down. And I was like, whoa, you know, like, especially at the
Mm.
time I was working to be an influencer, and I was, you know, I was really interested truly in like this product and possibly like getting one and showcasing it because I thought it was so cool. And this man was so horrible. And I mean, that's definitely the biggest one. But there's also been networking events where, you know, you try to go introduce yourself to someone and they just won't give you the time of day. And it used to really bother me. But I have learned that, you know, I can't change the way that they're going to see me. And I just need to find the people who are going to be supportive and kind to me. And so I don't let it bother me like I used to. But there has been instances for sure.
Definitely, definitely. And I think that was why it was important to me to do a Cannabis Super Women to me, because I feel like in a lot of industries, like you said, women don't get taken seriously. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we are not taking anything away from men. I feel like we are the ones out there that will, I'm going to try to say this the right way. We often will do the research behind something and be a lot more prepared in certain situations. It depends. I shouldn't say that way, but they know what I mean.
Women are strong.
What is your favorite strain and why?
So when I was living in Colorado for a summer, between my junior and senior year of college, the first year that it was recreational in Colorado, I went out and lived in Boulder for that summer. And there was a dispensary, Terrapin, that had this strain called Ambulance. And it was my favorite strain ever because it had a 1-to-1 CBD to THC ratio, and they had it in concentrate form. And so, I mean, that was all that I ever wanted, but now I can't find it. They don't have it anymore. And, you know, I've tried searching Ambulance, and it's not an official, you know, strain. It was probably something that they came up with in their own personal grow and never really did anything with. And I've been so disappointed, but that's my all-time favorite strain. And second to that would be Skywalker OG, because it's so relaxing and calming, and really helps turn my anxiety off, but also allows me to still be creative. I still get really into like the brainstorming zone and yeah, just enjoying myself. So that's my second favorite.
I have found along the years that different strains are better for different times of the day. Like if you use those medication as we do, like if you wake up in the morning and you have anxiety, you may need a strain that's gonna wake you up and make you feel like I'm ready to get this day going. But if you're getting ready to go to bed and it's nighttime, you're gonna want a strain that's gonna come at you with the relax and make the whatever you need to calm down so you can go to sleep. And so I like the analogy. It's like medication. Like if you were taking a medication for depression, you'd have that medication. If you were taking a medication for anxiety, you'd have that medication. You need two different things oftentimes. And that's how I feel about cannabis. Like you need different things throughout the day to get you going.
100%.
What do you hope to see happen in the cannabis industry in the future?
I kind of just alluded to this, but, you know, I go out to Colorado now and I can't find stuff with high CBD content. And that frustrates me because that's really what medical patients need. I mean, the CBD is what makes it truly, truly medicinal. THC is obviously needed too, but the CBD is so beneficial. And so I really want to see patients asking for this product, you know, and I think that comes down to education again. Patients don't know that they need to be asking for it. So I want to see more CBD in things, and I want to see more research. One, in endocannabinoid science, you know, and I think they're working on this, to have a test where we can determine whether or not someone is deficient in endocannabinoids. And then also, number two, I want to know what cannabinoids, because there's over 100 different cannabinoids in the cannabis plant, and terpenes. I want to know what terpenes and cannabinoids are best for certain conditions so that we can use it more therapeutically. And it's not this guessing game, because right now it is still, you know, someone comes to me and they say, well, what should I use for this? And it's, you know, I can give recommendations, but at the end of the day, it affects everyone so differently. And there's not enough research to be able to say, take exactly one hit of this strain twice a day. And I think that's where we need to get to in order for it to be truly effective and to be widely accepted in the medical community. So we're working on it, but we've got a ways to go still.
You have made a big impact, in my opinion, in that, and I'm sure that you have had a lot of people come to you that are grateful that you have taken the time to put this out there for them, because there's a lot of people like myself who are chronically ill and don't even know anything about CBD, don't even, all they know is what the doctors are telling them at pain management or at the PCP, and the doctors aren't suggesting to them that there's other alternatives, like you said earlier in the interview. You talked about meditation and things like that, acupuncture, things that nobody ever talks about as being a way to heal yourself and to feel better. And I like you, hope that that starts to be the change in the future. What are your goals with your business?
You know, I keep coming back to, we're kind of in a weird spot right now. You know, monetization is hard in this industry. I think one of the big misconceptions is that everybody is rich if they're in the cannabis industry, and that's just not true. Most of the people I know are struggling. Even big brands that you think are doing really well are struggling. And so at the end of the day, what I want to do is help people. I want to help educate people and create better quality of life. And I'm not exactly sure how that's going to end up manifesting in the long run. I've got lots of ideas that aren't going to make me money. So I have to figure out, what do I need to put my time and energy toward to help the most people in a way that I can also support myself. So, biggest goal is just help as many people as I can and help educate, like I said, educate people so that they know they need to be asking for, cannabis with high CBD content and things like that. So.
Right.
Change the stigma.
And that's it. I think that we talked about that a lot in this interview, is changing the stigma, that it takes people like you who are brave enough to stand up and say, hey, there's information here that you guys are missing, like big chunks of information that you're missing in making your decisions about these things that could be life-changing for so many people, as it was for me, as it was for you, as it was for your friend that introduced you to cannabis. And I have also met a lot of people over my time consuming cannabis that it really has made so much difference. And I feel like that's where I like to see Hempsley going. I like that about you, is that you really want to change the stigma. You want to educate, and you don't just want to go around and be like, hey, stop thinking that way about cannabis. You want to tell them why they should think differently about cannabis, because there's really is scientific reasoning behind it. And I'm glad that you are touching on that and making that an awareness to people. And this is sort of a fun question that I put in there, because it probably doesn't help with the stigma, but I'm a music person. So do you have a favorite weed song?
Yes, I do. So Philly John, like Coda the Friend, is like when I want to channel my inner, I'm doing my thing, this helps me. It's a really kind of fun song, and it mentions, let's see, what's the line? She smell like good dank. She smell like good dank, because it's a guy talking about this girl that he just adores, and smell like cocoa butter and some good dank, and it's just like, yes, just embracing it, and it's my jam. How about yours? What's your favorite song?
We're going to put a link to that in the in the info so people can get to it. 2 more questions for you. Who inspires you?
I have so many people that inspire me. For business related things, it's my dad. He has climbed the corporate ladder and knows, he's just so logical. He's so straight to the point. And whenever I'm in a networking situation or, in a business situation, because I'm not a business person, I'm a creative and an empath. I'm not a business person. I'm training myself how to be one. And so I channel my inner dad for those times. He's a big inspiration for the business side of things. And then comes to just entrepreneurship and being in the cannabis industry, I have such a network of amazing, supportive women who are always just grinding and doing amazing things. Canna Curious Club, Almost Consulting, Levo, we've got, just so many different brands. Kiskanu, they are all doing this incredible thing and breaking out of the mold. And there's hurdles all the time, and these hurdles aren't always public. I mean, because people don't want to hear about how much their day sucks, you know. And so you know, a lot of that gets kept under wraps. And I mean, there's hurdles at every corner. And so being able to watch these women encounter these struggles and get over them has been incredibly inspiring to me as someone who's in that same spot. I mean, they're ahead of me. And so to know, okay, they were in this position 2 years ago and look where they are now. I mean, that is amazing for me to be able to watch. So yeah. And then life, I mean, all the astrologers on Instagram, all of the poets, I mean, I'm really trying to get to a place, like I said, I've got really bad anxiety where I'm more in the moment and more unattached to things. And so, especially when it comes to the cannabis industry, it's changing every day. I mean, it's constantly in flux. And so to be able to just go with the flow and not be so attached to the outcome of something, because I can't tell you how many things I've tried with Hempsley and they don't necessarily work out. And, you know, I used to get really attached to those things and let it really drag me down. But these poets and, you know, astrologers have really inspired me to be more just more zen about life and how things come and go and learning the whole way. So
that's awesome. And I think that that'll be a major benefit to you this year, having that in your corner and really starting to, it helps you focus more when you step back and you're not so anxious and so like, I wanted to do it this way, because I'm that way too. Like, I wanted it to be this way, but the more you start to open your mind up and relax more, you're like, oh, we can be fluid here a little bit.
Right.
And my final question for you, and I made this my final question for a reason, because motivational quotes are really important to me, and they are something that I keep on my phone, that I keep with me, that I refer to when I need that mentality, when I need to shift my mentality. So what is your favorite motivational quote that you use to shift your mentality and get you back to focus?
My big one that it just came to me. I don't know where it came from exactly, but wake up tomorrow proud of who you were today. Because there are times whenever I do just want to crawl into bed and, you know, not do the work. And I know that is just going to make me more upset the following day. So, or there's those times late at night whenever you want to indulge in, you know, excess, whatever it is. For me, it's sugar. I get locked in a sugar coma. And so being able to remind myself, hey, am I going to be proud of this decision tomorrow? Am I going to feel good about this decision tomorrow? Really helps motivate me, because at the end of the day, you have to be proud of yourself. And that's something I've always struggled with. I've realized this in the past few years. It's been a big part of my anxiety to always be seeking external validation. Mm-hmm. So what are the choices that I can make today that are going to make me proud of myself tomorrow, because I've taken that initiative?
I like that. I like that quote. That's really nice. Thanks. I want to thank you again for doing this interview with me. I hope to see Hempsley make big strides this year. Actually, I know Hempsley is going to make big strides this year. I have that feeling in my body, and I'm pretty good with that. I'm like you. I'm an empath that I can energies, you know. And I wanted to let everybody know that's watching, I'm going to put links in the info. And also, if you are interested in ordering anything from Hempsley, if you use the code Surviving Chronically 5, you'll get 5% off of your order. And I also really, really, really want to encourage you guys to go check out Hempsley's website, learn about the cannabis, learn about what Miss Williams here has put out for everybody to understand cannabis differently. And our hope is that through this interview, you will see cannabis differently, and that you will know that there's women out there making huge strides in the industry. And I'm proud of you, Kristen. I really am. And I want you all out there to remember that you are not alone. Bye. Bye, Kristen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.